Melissa, we oftentimes run into situations where we are signing a hold harmless agreement, and you might as well be talking Greek to a lot of people because they don't know what that is. It's a fairly common thing in our industry, but it's one of those things that doesn't come up until it comes up.
Absolutely.
What is it?
There's so many opportunities that really vary the scope of fact patterns as to when a hold harmless agreement is a requirement. So it's not something that I can just say, oh, this is a hold harmless. It's what are the circumstances that require the hold harmless? And I think best to illustrate it with example. We have a lot of buyers who are also simultaneously selling their homes. So now they're in a situation where they have to sell and buy. And that is a really stressful undertaking, as we know. And the timing becomes really a bit of a challenge. So a lot of times we'll see buyers ask their sellers, hey, I have to be out of my house, but I'm not going to have a place to go. Is it possible for me to put things in your garage? Because you've already moved out and your garage is wide open. And if we put things there, it cuts down on storage costs, things of that nature, for example. Very often, that would precipitate a hold harmless agreement where the sellers would have a document identifying the facts. The buyers are going to use the property for purposes of storage only. They're not going to live there. And if, God forbid, there was an issue, a fire, damage, etc., then the sellers are not liable to the buyers for any loss of said personal belongings.
So you allow the buyer to move in by signing this hold harmless clause.
Yes.
Now let's say the furnace dies. What happens?
But if the furnace were to die, to answer your direct question, or something were to happen, it would technically be the seller's responsibility to cure the issue, certainly to put the buyer on notice of it and cure the issue under the Rhode Island disclosure laws anyway, because we are obligated as sellers to sell the property in the same condition as when the buyer saw it.
Now let me change the situation here. The buyer is in there. They throw a party. They break all sorts of stuff. They put holes in the walls.
Oh, boy.
What?
Don't let college kids move into your house. I mean, I'd like to think that, responsible adults are not throwing parties the weekend they move in before they own the property and damaging things, but that definitely does become a consideration. So the agreement would have to be sufficiently structured that identifies the property. There's already been a walkthrough, which is how I would typically structure it, so that the property is being conveyed as is at the time they take occupancy, except if there's any issues that come up that are a result of, nobody's caused the damage, the hot water tank just let go or whatever the case may be. So Rhode Island is what's known as a race state. So it's the first in time is the first in right, which means that we have to record the deed in order to make the transfer official. So very often at the closing, the buyers are exchanged keys from the sellers with, good luck and garage door openers and all of that. But it's not quite finished. We have to physically go to the town or the city where the property is located and put the documents on record with the land evidence clerk. It's at that time that the ownership officially transfers and that the buyer is the legal owner. So in the meantime, if that doesn't happen for some reason, the seller would be potentially holding some liability. However, I do think a hold harmless agreement is a extra belt and suspenders provision to protect the seller so that everybody's on the same page. Hey, Mr. Buyer, you bought this house. It's effective today. If something were to happen to the house or to you or to your belongings over the weekend, the seller's not going to be liable. We're really trying to minimize the exposure to the seller in that case.